The situation of the Russian occupation army in the Pokrovsk direction is deteriorating. The Ukrainian Defense Forces have broken through to the settlement of Mirnoye, finding themselves in the rear of Russian units. Now a wave of criticism and mutual accusations of the failure of the defense has begun among Z-war correspondents and propagandists. According to Russian propagandist Romanov, it was the mistakes of the command of the 5th Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade that led to the Ukrainian Armed Forces breaking into Mirnoye, the command of the 5th Brigade of Novoekonomicheskoe, but in fact did not hold these positions. As a result, the enemy was able to advance to Mirnoe. Now there are battles in the rear. There are risks of losing logistics and encirclement of other units. The Z-war correspondent panics. Another propagandist, Filatov, spoke even more harshly. According to him, false reports have become the norm, which costs the Russian army very large losses. Look for Novoekonomicheskoe on the map yourself. Supposedly it was liberated, and from there the Ukrainians came to Mirnoe. They just didn't know that this place has already been cleared. Filatov wrote. Meanwhile, a video from this section of the front has appeared on the internet in which two Russian occupiers openly spoke about the situation. My friend and I found ourselves in a very difficult situation. There were only 2 of us left in the group. We contacted the commander and asked for permission to retreat. He refused and threatened to zero us himself. We decided to turn off the radio, throw away our weapons, and try to surrender. We are alive. We have no other choice but to surrender. The occupier said. The Ukrainian Defense Forces have not yet commented on the information. However, judging by the panic of the Kremlin propagandists, the situation there is quickly becoming more complicated for the occupiers. Russia's main focus remains the Pokrovsk sector in the eastern Donetsk Oblast, where its troops are slowly advancing northeast of the logistic hub, once home to roughly 60,000 people. Russian troops are trying to close in on the Ukrainian pocket around Pokrovsk, approximately 16 kilometers wide, according to the Ukrainian open-source battlefield monitoring group, Deep State. Since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, many Russians have fled the country. These migrants, who include those fleeing political repression, avoiding military conscription, and opposing the war, have relocated to various destinations. This outflow is considered the largest exodus of Russians in the past 30 years, primarily driven by the war and conscription efforts. According to various estimates, between 500,000 and 1.3 million people left Russia in the first year of the Ukrainian war. Russians moved mainly to visa-free countries: Armenia, Georgia, Azerbaijan, Turkey, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, the UAE, and Mongolia. The state hides the fact of emigration and reports that the migration flow in the first 6 months of 2022 amounted to only 96.7 thousand people, which was even less than the pre-COVID figures. After the start of the war in Ukraine, the United States unexpectedly became the first country in which Russians applied for asylum en masse. According to incomplete figures, 48,000 Russians moved to this country. Those who went to Israel are mainly of Jewish origin. Musavat.com represents the top 5 countries where Russians currently live the most. The United Arab Emirates has long been a country where not only the rich live. Tens of thousands of Russians have moved to Dubai and Sharjah. They work here, do business, and gain status by opening companies. Moving here is not living like a sheikh. but a legalized way to work peacefully abroad. Renting an apartment starting at $1,000 is nothing in this country, from income to taxes. Russians choose this country not only because it is tax-free, it is both safe and has a stable economy. According to recent data, 100,000 Russians have moved to Georgia, and about 70,000 of them have already settled permanently in this country. Russians choose this place because their language is understandable, the climate is mild, and the food is delicious. And the price of renting an apartment here starts at just $300. Kazakhstan has been among the top 3 countries where Russians have settled the most in the last 3 years. Official statistics on permanent immigrants to this country have not been released, but hundreds of thousands of Russians have crossed the border since the war. The second country where Russians have settled the most in the last 3 years is our brotherly Turkey. 150,000 Russians have already received residence permits here. According to Russians, this is a tourist destination, but it is also very convenient to live. Russians already have their own schools, clinics, and law offices in Alanya, Antalya, and Istanbul. Tens of thousands of Russians live there without plans to return. The country where Russians emigrated the most after the war is Serbia. 300,000 have emigrated here. Belgrade is already called the new Russian Vilnius. Serbia is not a member of the European Union. It is a nation close to Russians. There is visa-free entry for this country, and rental houses are no more than $250. As for the Asian continent, there are no official statistics, but tens of thousands of Russians live in Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Sri Lanka. Here, too, there are simplified visa regimes. Apartment rent starts at $200, and food is mostly kopecks. Most of those who have left Russia over the past 3 years are in their late 20s and mid-40s, globally minded and highly skilled. They come from Russia's biggest cities, Moscow and St. Petersburg, and predominantly work in the IT sector, academia, media, education, and the arts. Most left with accumulated savings and speak fluent English. 8 out of 10 hold higher education degrees, while 1 in 10 has a PhD.